Those men were shot, just shot in self-defense, boom, boom, boom. You know, they weren't cut up, they weren't sliced up, no OJ jazz, you know. And he said, I did the most horrendous crime in the whole wide world.
Aileen Carol Wuornos was an American female serial killer. If we talk about female serial killers, her name comes up first for two main reasons. First, because her life was extremely disturbing, and second, because of the way she committed her crimes.
But you've been convicted of killing 7 men.
Everybody's looking at the number.
Does that not... You
I
killed
looked at the
7
number.
men, 7 strangers. Does that not make you a serial
So
killer?
I didn't kill them every day, did I? Did I go out there every day and say, I'm gonna kill them? If I did, there would
Well,
be
no,
hundreds.
it took you 12 months.
Yeah, and that's a hell of a lot of men I went through before the next jerk came along, and I used protection, like a condom.
So it was
From AIDS.
It was self-defense.
Yeah.
Well, the first one, perhaps. The second, maybe. But
So what?
7 times?
So what?
Aileen was born on February 29, 1956, in Michigan. Her mother, Diane Wuornos, was only 14 years old when she married 18-year-old Leo Pittman on June 3, 1954. A year after the marriage, on March 14, 1955, she gave birth to her first child. The following year, Diane gave birth to Aileen Carol Wuornos. Aileen never met her father because 2 months before Aileen was born, her mother filed for divorce because her father, Leo, was an alcoholic with a long history of criminal behavior, including child molestation. When Aileen was 4 years old, her mother abandoned both her children, leaving them with their maternal grandparents, Laurie and Britta Wuornos. On March 18, 1960, the grandparents legally adopted Keith and Aileen. Both of Aileen Wuornos' grandparents were alcoholic. Her grandfather often fought with her grandmother, and both of them were abusive toward the children. They wouldn't give them food on time and would also beat them. Because of this, when Aileen Wuornos was 11 years old, she began engaging in wrong activity at school in exchange for cigarettes, drugs, and food. During this time, her brother starts assaulting her, and her grandfather also assaults and beats her. Before beating her, he would force her to strip out of her clothes. At age 14, she became pregnant after being assaulted by a friend of her grandfather and an older local pedophile. Wuornos gave birth to a boy at a home for unwed mothers on March 23, 1971. As a result of all this, she dropped out of school, and around the same time, her grandmother died due to liver failure. A few months after her grandmother's death, her grandfather forced her to give up the child for adoption. When Wuornos was 15, her grandfather threw her out of the house. Living in the woods near her old home, Wuornos supported herself through prostitution. As time passed, at the age of 18, Aileen Wuornos was arrested for the first time. She faced charges for driving under the influence and firing a .22 caliber pistol from a moving vehicle. After being released from jail, Wuornos left Colorado and eventually moved to Florida, where she met 69-year-old Louis Gratz. They married quickly. The announcement of their wedding was printed in the local newspaper. After 2 weeks of their marriage, Wuornos hit her husband with a stick, and her husband gained a restraining order against her. After this, she returned to Michigan. After returning to Michigan, Aileen's problems didn't stop. First, she got into a fight at a club, and the police arrested her. A few days later, on July 17th, her brother Keith died of esophageal cancer, and Wuornos received $10,000 from his life insurance. However, even this money didn't change her life. Wuornos used part of it to pay some fines and spent the rest within 2 months on luxuries, including a new car. Not long after that, she divorced her husband. In short, Aileen's life continued to be full of struggles and challenges. In 1978, at age 22, she attempted suicide by shooting herself in the stomach. But this time, she survived because she received medical treatment in time. Between the ages of 14 and 22, she attempted suicide 6 times. This shows that she didn't really want to live, yet life kept giving her another chance to change and live differently. She kept getting involved in small crimes, and the police arrested her many times, sometimes for fighting in bars, sometimes for stealing, and other times for armed robbery. She was also caught carrying a gun in restricted areas. In total, she was arrested at least 7 times before committing her first murder in 1989. Around this time, she met Tyria Moore, her future partner, in a gay bar in Daytona, Florida. They moved in together, and Wuornos supported them with her earnings as a prostitute. Tyria didn't have a steady job after that. Instead, she relied on Aileen's earnings. Aileen would go out, pick up clients, and bring back money to support both of them, paying for food, motel rooms, and other expenses. But things weren't going well, and then came a turning point in her life, one that led her straight toward death. She told Tyria that she was tired of living off prostitution and being treated badly by her clients. Then, in December 1989, Aileen Wuornos carried out her first known murder. Her victim was Richard Mallory, a 51-year-old Florida electronics store owner. Wuornos later asserted that she was hitchhiking when Mallory picked her up and subsequently assaulted her. Claiming self-defense, she stated that she shot him multiple times with her .22 caliber pistol. After the killing, she proceeded to steal his car, wallet, and other personal belongings. After the shooting, she stole his car, money, and wallet. Over the next year, she killed several more men in the same way, always taking their cars, money, and personal items. All of her victims were middle-aged men, and each was found shot multiple times. At first, police thought these were just robberies gone wrong, but after a few similar cases, they noticed a pattern. The killer always took the victim's car and belongings. The big break came when Aileen and Tyria Moore crashed one of the victim's cars. Witnesses saw them running from the scene and helped the police create composite sketches. These sketches were published in newspapers and shown on TV. Soon, people recognized Aileen and called the police. Officers quietly followed her, checking pawn shop records, and discovered she had pawned several items belonging to her victims, using her own fingerprints and name, giving police solid evidence. Finally, on January 9, 1991, police tracked her to the Last Resort biker bar in Volusia County, Florida, and arrested her without any resistance. A day after Aileen's arrest, the police found Tyria Moore in Pennsylvania. They brought her back to Florida to question her about the murders. Tyria agreed to help the police and get Aileen to confess in exchange for full immunity, meaning she wouldn't be charged for anything. Following the police's plan, Tyria made several phone calls to Aileen, pretending to be scared and begging her to clear her name. After 3 days of these emotional calls, on January 16, 1991, Aileen finally confessed to the murders. She said that all the men had tried to harm or assault her, and she only killed them in self-defense. On January 14, 1992, Aileen's trial began for the murder of Richard Mallory. Just 2 weeks later, on January 27th, she was found guilty largely because of Tyria's testimony against her. During the sentencing, psychiatrists told the court that Aileen was mentally unstable and suffered from borderline personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. Wuornos's defense introduced evidence that Mallory was previously convicted for attempted rape in Maryland, but this did not help Aileen Wuornos. 4 days later, Aileen Wuornos was sentenced to death. On March 31, 1992, Aileen Wuornos pleaded no contest to the murders of Charles Richard Humphreys, Troy Eugene Burris, and David Andrew Spears, meaning she didn't deny the crimes but also didn't fight the charges. She said she wanted to get right with God. During her statement to the court, Aileen admitted that Richard Mallory had violently assaulted her, but she claimed that the other men hadn't. They had only started to make advances toward her. On May 15, 1992, the court gave her 3 more death sentences for those murders. A month later, in June 1992, she pleaded guilty to the murder of Charles Edmund Carskadden and received her 5th death sentence that November. Then, in February 1993, she pleaded guilty to killing Walter Geno Antonio and was sentenced to death once again. No charges were filed against her for the murder of Peter Abraham Seams because his body was never found. In total, Aileen Wuornos received 6 death sentences, making her one of the few women in U.S. history to be sentenced to death so many times. During an interview with filmmaker Nick Broomfield, Wuornos, thinking the cameras were off, admitted the killings were in self-defense, but said she couldn't bear being on death row for 10 years and just wanted to die. Aileen Wuornos was held on death row at the Broward Correctional Institution before being moved to Florida State Prison for execution. Her last words to the camera were, "Thanks a lot, society, for railroading my ass." Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection on October 9, 2002, at 9:47 a.m. She refused a last meal and only had a cup of coffee. Her final words were strange, saying she'd be back with Jesus like Independence Day. After her death, she was cremated, and her ashes were scattered under a tree in Michigan by her friend Dawn Botkins. Her favorite song, Carnival by Natalie Merchant, was played at her funeral. If you found this video informative, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our future videos on true crime. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What part of Wuornos' story shocked you the most?